have been your highs and lows so far?
Of my training,
Yeah.
highlight was Sea Level Business winning my first runner for Mum and Dad owned. I will be shocked if that feeling's ever topped in my training career. Like that was, I say this without an ounce of exaggeration, it was the best day of my life. It was absolutely extraordinary. Like my alarm in the winter goes off at 4:45. Like 4:15 on Boxing morning, I was like wide awake, and the nerves, I was so sick with nerves all morning. And then like I said to myself during the race, I was just going to stand still and watch it as close as I could, and like my heart was absolutely beating out my chest. And then I've said this loads before, like if you could bottle the feeling of those 5 minutes after the race, you'd be a millionaire overnight. Like it was absolutely extraordinary. So that was the high. What was the low? I suppose like every trainer will say, like any horse getting injuries, like whether they're an injury you have to sit out for a month or a year, like it's really rubbish, because obviously it's an expensive hobby or passion or pastime for owners, and the worst thing is having to ring people and let them down by saying, your horse has gone wrong, he's got a problem, or she's gonna have to have some time off. Like that is what I find the worst bit, because it's, you know, you're so desperate to succeed, and when you're, you know, for example, recently I had to tell an owner that their horse has to have a year off. The start of the year should be exciting, like that, you know, and so that's the worst bit. I don't think that'll ever change either. Really.
And strengths and weaknesses?
Well, I think the weaknesses was I was inexperienced, and I'm sure that there was a couple of placement errors I made. Like game winner finished second on debut, I went to an extra novice hurdle. I'm absolutely convinced if I ran him on Boxing Day at Huntingdon, he'd have won. So the weaknesses just came from me being inexperienced, I think, and I think that's just going to happen, right? When you're in a new business and you're young, you're trying to make the right call. You don't make it all the time. I ran 4 of a kind at Fontwell when I shouldn't have. He ran badly. You know, Ilvad as well ran at Taunton in a bumper. I probably should have waited a week with him. So I think bits and bobs like that are weaknesses. The strength, without question, my team. Like last year, we were a small group of people, and I don't know why, I was just really fortunate that they all bought into what we were doing, worked really, really hard. And like, it felt, I'd hope they'd say the same, it felt like it was we're all doing this, not we're doing this for him. So that feels like a strength for me, yeah.
This could be something you just mentioned, which is to do with placing horses, but what would you say your biggest learning curve so far has been?
I think very, very quickly when you get a license, you realise that the day you're on is very important, but you've got to be like 3 weeks ahead all the time, because obviously if you're just looking at the racing calendar day by day and going, oh, there's a race I could run in 6 days time, it's almost too late by then to notice, I think. So I like to say on the 1st of January, okay, that horse is running on the 23rd of January, that horse is running not till February, we don't need to panic with him yet, he's running in 2 weeks time. So I feel like the biggest learning curve is like, you've got to really, really think ahead and be as absolutely prepared as you can, because like when you're assistant, you're only ever giving an opinion and you're offering a view. Whereas actually when you're training for yourself, it's on your opinion. So you've got to be as prepared as possible for that. So I think just forward planning, thinking ahead is the biggest learning curve.
What do you do to recharge? What do your hobbies away from it all? Are you quite good at creating a bit of a divide, a bit of separation from everything?
Am I quite good at it? But I think I'm getting better, and I'm very conscious that actually every now and again you do need to take a couple of hours to just say, I need to step away from this, because I've already found in a short period of time I've been doing it, you have some of your best ideas when you're doing something else. So my biggest relaxation is watching cricket. I love watching cricket. It's massive. It's like after racing, the biggest sort of passion I have. So have a few days at cricket in the summer, listen to a few cricket, but I listen to a lot of cricket podcasts. Spend time with my girlfriend. That's it. Like time is not something you have a lot of. If you're lucky enough to be busy in horse racing, you're not going to find yourself with loads of time. But I think if you can just have bits of time away from it, you know, even if it's 8:30 in the evening, and you say, right, just for an hour, just go and chill out now. I think that's important to do. So I don't have massive amount of time, but it's sort of split between Libby and family and cricket.
Could you give us an idea of what your aspirations for the next 10 years might look like?
I keep growing my business. I'd love to train over 100 horses one day. I don't want to grow so quickly that things become completely out of control. I want to feel like I'm doing a really good job with the horses I have, and I hope I can do that this season. But you know, my biggest aspiration is to have horses good enough to compete in, you know, the top races in national sport. I mean, the way I think our industry is going, I think in order to have those horses, you have to have a big string, because you've got to have a lot of horses in order to come across those good ones. But yeah, I would love to be a sort of one of the leading yards in 10 years' time. I'd love to be sort of one of the leading yards in the country.